What's going on, everybody? And welcome here into the Refresh Network. As always, it is so good to have you here with us. I want to take a moment right at the top here today to give a very, very big thank you to all of you who have reached out to me over the last couple of weeks. It has been quite the couple of weeks, I must admit. I had the opportunity to do an article, to put my story out there with MinPost. Andy Steiner doing an absolutely beautiful job with that article. And then I also had the chance to sit down with my friend and colleague Janice Shortle over at Care 11. And in both of those, opening up a little bit more, sharing my own story with mental health, with anxiety and obsessive compulsive disorder. And the outpouring of support has been absolutely beautiful. I truly cannot thank you enough. I have felt the love. I have done as much as I can to get back to as many of you as I possibly can. But I really wanted to take this time to thank you and let you know how much it has meant to me, all the support that I've gotten out there. I keep describing it to people as exciting and overwhelming and inspiring and scary and expansive and isolating all at the same time. To really step in and be vulnerable and open up like that. But I want to say that the reason that I have done this and my intention behind all of this has been to let you know out there that you are not alone in your struggle, whatever that may be, whether it's mental health related or not. I think we just need more conversations around the real things that are going on in life and the things that we're struggling with, because I think so many of us feel like we're the only ones. And I have been so honored by the number of you, the number of people, so many of you that have reached out to me and opened up about your own story, about your own struggles with mental health. I've been so honored that you felt safe enough and comfortable enough to tell me those things. And it has also sparked what we're doing here today on the Refresh Network. As so many of you have said to me that you're gonna start taking steps like seeing a therapist and talking about your mental health and getting help for some of the things that you're going through, it's absolutely amazing and it's inspiring. And at the same time, I know that those first steps can feel really, really overwhelming and can feel really scary. So many therapists out there. Who do I see? How much is it going to cost? Insurance, all those questions can really, really be a lot and can be really overwhelming on top of whatever it is that you're going through. So to help inspire and support any of you out there that are taking that first step that can be so tricky, we have Kelly Grosklags with us today. A little backstory on Kelly. She has been a therapist here in the Twin Cities for over 25 years. She has worked both in the private practice setting and also in a hospital setting. She's become a very, very dear friend of mine, has been so supportive of the work that we're doing here on the Refresh Network. And I wanted to have her on to just talk about taking that first step and kind of a pep talk of sorts, I guess, for anybody out there who wants to make that leap and wants to start seeing a therapist and might be feeling a little bit scared about that. Kelly really has some beautiful words and some good advice and just some good things to think about and to absorb if that's the space that you're in. So I am so grateful for all the work that Kelly is doing out there in the world. So honored that she took the time to sit down and talk to me. So let's get into it. Without further ado, here she is, Kelly Grosklags. Should we cheers?
Yes.
Cheers. Thank you so much for doing this.
It's an honor.
So for somebody that is exploring this and maybe looking to work with a therapist, but they have like no idea what that looks like, let's start with why is it helpful to go in and see a therapist?
Well, because it gets at, if we're a mind, body, and a spirit as human beings, it gets at things that our physicians can't. You know, we can't get to the mind through working with a primary care doctor. So people would want to go in to seek therapy if they are struggling with any kind of mental health illness, or if they even wonder if they have any mental health issues. You don't need to know. You don't need to know. You just, part of going into a therapist is to see an expert to help you. People, I think, sometimes don't go in because they say, oh, it's not bad enough, or I don't or I'm scared to go in. You know, most of the time when people come into therapy, they've waited probably 1 to 2 years too long.
If somebody again is diving into this and they just don't know where to start, like where do you start looking for therapists?
One of the best ways is to get word of mouth. So ask around in your circles, trusted circles, you know, ask, do you see a therapist? Do you know, yeah, my sister sees a therapist, she's really good. Some therapists won't see like best friends because there can be a conflict of interest. I personally would never see somebody in the same family. And if it was a really close friendship, I might not see anybody, but asking around is one of the best ways. Now that takes vulnerability because you are coming out, quote unquote, that you're gonna start seeing a therapist. So asking around, your general practitioner is a good place to start, or an OBGYN if you're female is a good place to start. They often have a list of therapists they work with that they like. Psychology Today is a very good place to start. It's an online service for a therapist who will type in what their specialties are, what their years of experience are. It's a place to start. You really want to go to somebody that's trained in what you're going for. I mean, if it's OCD, if it's traumatic loss, if it's eating disorder, whatever it may be, you want to go to somebody that really has a specialty in it.
Yep. And I think there's a lot of therapists out there that might sometimes say that they understand a certain condition, and that's not to fault them at all, but they don't always maybe fully understand the thing that you might be going through. So again, I think it kind of comes back to just really asking those questions and doing all that research for yourself.
It's an investment. It's an investment of time. It's an investment of yourself, your soul, your money. And so do not hesitate to ask somebody if they're listing, because you're absolutely right, you bring up a good point. People can list grief and loss, for example. But when you really get down to it, they don't necessarily have a lot of training in grief and loss. It's okay to ask the person, so what percentage of your practice is somebody who's had a traumatic loss? What percentage of your practice is somebody that has OCD? And then tell the therapist what your style is, what you're looking for. I really like somebody that is going to be A, B, or C. And this isn't to put anybody on the defense. This is truly because it is such an investment. You really need to figure out, is this going to be a good connection?
You brought up insurance. I know that insurance can be confusing, and then I feel like it gets even more confusing sometimes when it comes to mental health and trying to figure out how much you're gonna have to pay, that sort of thing. Do you have any advice out there of just like how to maneuver insurance, or just all the questions and the things that can come up around that?
Do you?
No.
Because I'd love to know.
Because I'm listening very closely.
You know, most of us who are in a mental health practice have a billing person. And that's a really good person to talk to. So if you find a therapist, you can ask him or her, do you have a billing department? That person will tend to know, or will be able to help you figure out what your in-network deductible is, what your out-of-network deductible is, what are your benefits, what are your out-of-pocket benefits. Call the experts. You know, your therapist is not gonna be the expert in your insurance because let's say you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, every policy is different. So I will see lots of clients who have Blue Cross Blue Shield, but it's gonna look different for all of them.
We should point out that Cooper's walking around here, my dog. If you're hearing little paw
And
prints going on in the background, he just wants to make an appearance. How are you, bud?
He's a therapy dog, so we had to have him come.
He's like, I'm just checking it out, seeing what's going on. Why is it important to focus on our mental health?
Well, you actually could probably answer that a lot better than I could, but I will say that if our mental health is not centered, if our mental health is fragmented, our entire life will be. It's so important to look at our mental health. We deserve to. Who couldn't benefit from an objective person just to listen to? Therapy is for all of us. It truly is. It's something that can benefit every one of us. I have not met one person, Brian, that can't benefit from a really safe, non-judgmental space to be able to talk about things that they're struggling with.
Is there something that you have found as far as like when you work with clients and it's a really successful experience, or it's a really healing experience for the person that comes in and sees a therapist. What's the key to that?
Yeah,
or
great.
What helps that process?
That's a great question. And I think it's really important to know that you are part of a team. So the therapist is not the wizard behind the curtain. And the therapist doesn't have the magic wand.
You don't?
I mean, I do, but...
This is why I invited you on.
I do have the magic wand. It doesn't work most of the time, but it's the magic wand is the client and the client's ability to hear and to trust and to join. So you and your therapist are a team. It's not your therapist is over you, it's you are parallel and you're connected. I think one of the misnomers is that you're gonna go in and within 3 sessions you're gonna be quote unquote fixed. I don't see people as broken. I see people's stories as fragmented. I see people's souls as disrupted. I see people's brain chemistry is unbalanced, but I don't see people as broken. That is not how this is personally how I refer to people. So it's not necessarily something we're gonna fix. It's something we're gonna understand. It's something we're gonna integrate. But we have to have a connection. And you, as the client, are gonna have to do a lot of this work. You can't come in and just ask me for the answers. You need to come in and you need to be willing to be vulnerable, and we're gonna wrestle with things. We're not gonna always agree on things. But I think that's what's really important, is to see it as a team. If you begin and when you start trusting your therapist, a lot of work can be done. Yeah. And in a beautiful, safe setting. Bring into your therapy sessions who you are. Bring into them. I mean, truly bring yourself, bring all of you, even if you don't like the way it looks that day, or if it feels really ugly to you, or it feels really painful, bring it, because we can only heal what's in the room.
What if I'm scared about what I'm going to share in the room, and I'm scared about what that might say about who I am, or I'm scared of hurting my therapist, or I'm just scared about being
very
vulnerable.
Natural. That's so natural. If you have the courage, it's going to be the most helpful to actually just say what you just said. I'm really scared to tell you something. I also think people need to really realize that when this is lived within your mind, it becomes really big and it becomes really ugly. And we can start to really feel a lot of shame about ourselves, and you'd be surprised at when you actually say something. I mean, I have been given a lot of warnings. Something's gonna come out of my mouth. It's gonna be really difficult. I'm really struggling sharing this. And I can hold the space for that and say, when you're ready, tell me. And when it actually comes out, not that I'm diminishing it, because I know it's very painful for the person, but it's like, as a therapist, I kind of like, well, I mean, that's right up there with what I've heard 10 times today, okay? And so, but I understand for the person. But you also have to remember, if you're going to somebody that's seasoned or that's skilled, and especially if they quote unquote specialize in your area, they have likely heard a version of what you're telling them. I don't say that to diminish it for how scary it is for people, but I think we have to put it in perspective.
If you could look in the eyes of somebody that's struggling and that's on their own mental health journey, maybe they're feeling really scared, and you could say something to them in like 30 seconds, what would it be?
I would want them to know that, first of all, they are a person. I think we can get really hung up in somehow we're deformed or defected, but I would want people to know that I see them. They're a person, but people have to truly believe that this too can pass and that this too can get better, and it does take work, but I see it every day. So I'd want people to know that. I guess in 30 seconds, I'd want to say, I could see you having an outcome like I have seen hundreds of people over the years, which is to feel more comfortable in your skin, to have a better understanding of what you're going through, to not see yourself as a freak. I have way too many people refer to themselves like that in my sessions. But I want you to know that you're more like the rest of this world than you are different.
A big thank you again to Kelly for sitting down and chatting. And before we go, I just quickly want to mention that a lot of the work that Kelly has done over the course of her career has been geared towards end-of-life care, working with people who are living with a terminal illness, also helping to support people who are losing a loved one or have lost a loved one. And she holds events regularly called Conversations with Kelly. And if you've not heard of these events, I want to make sure that you know about them. They are a beautiful resource for you out there, a place for you to gather that brings people together that have experienced a loss. Maybe they're living with a terminal illness. Maybe you're just going through something really challenging in your life and you need a soft place to land, a place to feel supported. Conversations with Kelly is a place that can support you through whatever it is that you're going through. So check her out on Facebook. Look up Conversations with Kelly. She posts when she's having her events. Also just a beautiful person to follow on social media. She also has a book out there, and it is called Comforted Hearts, an amazing resource for you there as well. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Another big thank you to Kelly for sitting down and chatting. And whatever it is that you're going through out there, be good to yourself, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Refresh Network. A reminder that these conversations are not meant to replace work with a therapist. If you feel you need it, do reach out to a trained professional. Be good to yourselves out there, and I'll talk to you soon.